generosity is imprinted in our hearts. Everybody knows Cindy Wu. Google her. If you Googled her, her accolades are so long. So I'm going to just say one thing about Cindy Wu. She's an amazing super connector. Thank you. Because of today, this happened because you brought all these great revered speakers today. And before we get started with her introduction with each of the speakers, I would like a poll to come on, because I want to know, we want to know whether some of you have applied for local, national,
state,
federal, state, and local, or local, state and federal, you know, I lost my words. If you've applied for anything like CARES Act, right? So it's going to come on now. If you could take a poll, and after this poll, it's just 3 questions. So it's going to go fast, and Rod, who's here, will let us know when the count is done, and then we'll get started with Cindy Wu. Thank you so very much, everyone.
Great.
Okay, so yeah, we're gonna have the poll starts in 3 minutes. So you know, it's as you've seen in the monitor. Actually, the poll is already here. So we have 3 minutes to answer this poll. So kindly, you know, answer it right now.
It looks like 2 questions.
It's 3 questions.
3 questions. So we have 1 minute to answer each question. So to all newcomers, please answer the poll. So we have 3 minutes to answer this poll. So, you know, please answer this one. Last 1 minute. So this poll, actually, it's live. So you're gonna see the answer here. I don't know if you guys seeing it here, but this is a live poll.
Thank you for those questions. I myself haven't applied for any type of funds. State, federal, local.
Okay, I think Fiona just joined us. And
Fiona. Hi, Fiona.
all right, hold on 1 second, Fiona. I will get there. There.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
You are
Welcome. Your
Yeah.
timing
Thank
is
you.
perfect. Such
Good to see
perfect
you all.
timing.
I don't see Daniel, but okay, I think we have, so Rod, how are we doing on the timing here?
Actually, we're already done with the 3 minutes. So
Okay.
do you want me to read all the information, or shall we just do it,
No,
later
I
on?
think should we, has everybody voted? I see we have 25 out of 41 people vote, and I guess some people may be joining us via phone, so they may not be able to vote. So I'm going to go ahead and end the polling right now, and everyone can see, I think everybody can see the poll, right? So the question is, have you applied for any federal funds? The selection where yes, no, would like to apply, doesn't know how to apply, and don't know how, and however would like to. So we have 44% has already applied for federal funds. We have 52% has not applied for any federal funds, and we have 8% would like to apply, and we have 12% don't know how to apply, and we have 8% don't know how, however would like to. The second question is, have you applied for state fund? We have 20% of the people that have applied for funds, and 72% have not applied for any state fund. 8% would like to, 8% don't know how, and we have 8% don't know how, however would like to. The last question we have is, have you applied for local funds? Nobody has applied for local funds. I'm not sure if there are any local funds available. However, we're going to go over that today. And there's 80% that said no. 4% said would like to. 4% said don't know how. And 12% don't know how, however, would like to. So, okay. And
Cindy,
yes.
Cindy, can you let in Daniel? Daniel is waiting. He's in the chat room or whatever.
Okay. So, Rod, can you help with that?
Yes, I will.
Great.
Okay.
Okay, Cindy,
Yes.
I was introducing you to come on after the poll. However, now I'd like to say Cindy Wu is going to be introducing the speakers. We know everybody who Cindy is. She's popular, and if you Google her, her accolades will come out, but we don't have time to talk about all the amazing things she's done with the community. But I will tell you, Cindy Wu, you are a super connector. Thank you so much. I'm going to turn it over to you so you can introduce our great speakers today.
Great. Thank you very much, Cheryl, for that. Yeah, so I'm in a few spaces. I'm in education, real estate, and also nonprofit space. So it is such a with great honor today. I have the privilege of introducing our featured speaker, our state elected treasurer, Fiona Ma. So Fiona Ma is California's 34th state treasurer. She was elected on November 6, 2018, with more votes, about 7.8 million votes, than any other candidate for treasurer in the state's history. She is the first woman of color and the first woman certified public accountant, CPA, elected to the position. The state treasurer's office was created in the California Constitution in 1849, and it provides financing for schools, roads, housing, recycling, and waste management, hospitals, public facilities, and other crucial infrastructure projects. Then, better than the lives of the residents. California is the world's 5th largest economy, and Treasurer Ma is the state's primary banker. That's incredible. So her office processes more than $2 trillion in payments within a typical year. She provides transparency and oversight for the government's investment portfolio and accounts, as well as for the state's surplus funds. Treasurer Ma oversees an investment portfolio of more than $102 billion, that's with a B, approximately $20 billion of which are local government funds. She serves as agent for sale of all state bonds, and is a trustee on over 100 billion of outstanding debt. Let's give her a great round of applause.
Thank
Yay.
you.
And now I'd like to introduce Daniel, and I'm hoping he is somewhere here on the phone. And
I think he's muted, so someone has to unmute him.
great. So is he under the name Daniel? Rod, if you can look into that, that would be great. If he's logged in under the name of Daniel, or if he could wave during the pictures, then that would be great. Now I will read a little bit about Daniel. Daniel Sieu brings over 25 years of experience to the organization as a lender and financial consultant to small, medium, and large businesses. As a consultant, he has assisted business economic disasters, including the Los Angeles civil unrest of 1992, Hurricane Andrew, and the Northridge earthquake. He personally has packed and submitted approximately 300 disaster loan applications for clients over his career. These ground level experience have given him an understanding as to the steps required to stabilize communities in tough economic times. So before becoming to SCCGP, and he represented the U.S. Commerce, MBDA Business Center in Riverside. So Mr. Sieu was the president, the executive director of the Asian Pacific Revolving Loan Fund of Los Angeles. And I'm sure as we go, you're going to hear a little bit more about his background that he's able to share with us. But his expertise and experience in developing, reviewing, and presenting underwriting packages has resulted in many private banking community loan funds throughout the Southern California. And so he is awarded by the U.S. Department of Commerce, and also was contracted as a financial advisor to the city of Los Angeles. So welcome, Dan.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, there you are. Okay, great. And I recommend for all the attendees, it would be beneficial for you to put yourself on speaker view. That's probably the best way of doing the Zoom, as we have presentations to go through later as well. Okay, next I'd like to introduce our fellow speakers, and this is definitely their short version of their bio. All of their bios like 2-page long. So Coral Hansen is a CPA, was listed on the LA Business Journal 2019 Most Influential Woman in Accounting, and along with Lissa Weissman, which is the Managing Director of GlassRatner, which is a national specialty financial advisory services with a comprehensive real estate service division. Okay, and as we go, I will probably share a little bit more. And Coral and Lissa, if you don't mind, go ahead and share with us a little bit more about your background as you share your presentation as well. And last but not least, today we also have the honor of Taunee English as the moderator for our session. You see her waving. If you want to just say hi, so that way people see you, Taunee.
Hello.
Great. So Taunee is a real estate and business broker of Lion Realty Group. She is the 2019 Realtor of the Year from the Greater Los Angeles Association. She's a state director, a vice chair for the Communication Advisory Committee at the California Association of Realtors. And actually the board of directors is happening right now via Zoom among our few thousand board of directors. So thank you so much, Taunee, for being with us this morning or this afternoon. She's the professional development chair for the Greater Los Angeles Realtor Association, and also the president-elect for Women's Council of Realtors in Greater Los Angeles as well. And as you go through, please do share a little bit about your background as well. But she is a veteran, for those of you that don't know, and she also was a practicing CPA in the past. So therefore, she knows a lot of information about what we have to cover today. So today you will hear information from federal, state, local, especially the POA that just opened up a couple days ago. I see a lot of Facebook groups that they're saying, did you apply, did you apply, did you apply? So, so with that, Taunee, actually with that, Fiona, if you want to take away with the presentation, and I don't know if Taunee, you wanted to say anything before that.
Well, I'm definitely honored to be on the same call as our California's CPA, aka California Treasurer. So it's thank you very much, and I'm looking forward to hearing about the state and local resources you have for us.
Great. Okay, so
Okay, so should I go?
yes, you can go, and I'm going to pull up your screen right now.
Okay. All right.
Start from the beginning. There we
All right. So I know that Gloria is on with me, and we have a little PowerPoint now, but I just wanted to let everybody know. Thank you, Cindy, for convening us. This is probably my 24 webinars. I've done most of them with Daniel Sieu. So we've been a tag team. He handles the federal questions, like the PUA questions that I'm sure are going to be very, very popular. And I try to answer all of the state and some of the local questions as well. But I know it's been really hard for the real estate industry, especially not being able to show open houses. Some folks are not able to Airbnb different places. And so we hopefully will be over this pandemic sooner than later. A couple things, when you go on my website, www.treasurer.ca.gov, Catherine Asprey on my team will be typing in these websites as I speak. There are two buttons. The first one is a covid19.ca.gov, and that is our official California health website. There's a lot of myths on social media these days, whether it's Facebook or WeChat. So we really encourage folks to stay up to date at our official state website. The other one is our COVID-19 resource guide, which is compiled by my outreach team. And we have on-demand, updated, frequently small business resources for not only business owners, but independent contractors and gig workers, which are now going to be covered under unemployment insurance first time. And we also have resource guides for food as well as tax relief. So Taunee, to all the CPAs, I hope you'll log on to that and please share it around. Okay. And if not get to a question today, please email me at askfiona@treasure.ca.gov, and it's up on the screen right now. And please, I encourage your clients, your friends and families. I know they all have questions. They're all looking for resources. So please encourage them to email us, and we will get back to them as soon as we can. What else do we have, Gloria?
Okay, so just so you know, I give you guys access so you guys can actually move the PowerPoint. Gloria and Fiona.
Okay, I think someone's moving it for me.
Oh, okay.
So Gloria, did you want to give your little presentation?
Okay, just to explain to everyone. So we're going to have Gloria, who's staff with our California Treasurer, Fiona, and she's going to be explaining about the different programs they have on the state and local level. And she's also going to go over the PUA, which we're all on pins and needles about since it just opened up 2 days ago.
All right, so Gloria says that she cannot show the screen very well. So I'm just going to go over a couple of things. Number one, be careful of scams that are happening right now as people are looking for their $1,200 stimulus check from the federal government. There will be people out there impersonating either tax officials or perhaps CPAs or bankers. Please note that government will never ask for your personal information like your social security. They will never ask for your bank account or your bank routing number, or ask you to pay via credit card, or ask you to write a cashier's check and deliver it down to the 7-Eleven. That is definitely a scam. So just that. There are also a couple of great websites. We have a private-public partnership with onwardca.org, and there are 110,000 jobs So they are trying to really match people who need a job at this moment with openings that are available. And I'd also like to just put a plug in for the census. Every 10 years, we count how many people we have in the state. The federal government allocates $1 trillion or more back to the states based on who is counted and how many people we have in our population. So nobody's going to come to your door during this pandemic. So we are really asking folks to please go online. It takes less than 2 minutes to answer 9 questions. We have a lot of underserved people, hard to count people, and we really would ask you to help us reach out to your clients during this time, and please make sure that they get counted. And that website is www.census.ca.gov. So I'm gonna turn it over because I know we only have an hour, and then I will be back and answer any questions that folks may have.
Thanks, Fiona. I'm unmuted now, so thank you, everyone. Thanks, Cindy, for opening this up and sharing the screen. So I'm Gloria. I'm the Director of External Affairs for the State Treasurer, and with me here is my colleague, Catherine Asprey, and she's the Director of Constituent Affairs for the State Treasurer. So we've been working really hard on trying to find resources for the community, as well as trying to answer everyone's questions, not just related to the State Treasurer's office, but we're trying to help be the liaison to questions that's related to state agencies and other small business resources. So again, if you have any questions that we don't answer during this presentation, or if we can't answer your questions in the chat room today, please email us at askfiona@treasurer.ca.gov. We will try our best to answer them or connect you to someone who can. And we also have a lot of resources available on the Treasurer's website. So it's listed here on the screen, www.treasurer.ca.gov. And I just want to clarify that we don't work for the EDD or some of the agencies that are mentioned here. So if you have like specific cases that we can't give you answers to right away, we will try to look into it for you. But we're trying to provide as much resources as possible during this time. Okay, so I know Cindy and Taunee asked for some information on the PUA. The application just opened on the 28th, so 2 days ago. And because most of the real estate industry is independent contractors, this is really important for your membership group. So here's some, can't click. So first of all, you can find out whether you qualify or not using these bullet points, but the general theme here is that your income and your work has been impacted by COVID. So whether or not you have been, you have symptoms, or you've been asked to isolate, or you have family members you have to care for, or you have children that you have to care for and you can no longer work because of the pandemic, these may be reasons for you qualifying for the PUA. And the PUA is available to gig workers and contractors, and it's the first time that there's unemployment assistance to this group that can't receive unemployment insurance. So with that said, if you can work like telework and you are receiving paid sick days, you do not qualify. And unfortunately, workers must be authorized to work in the US in order to receive the PUA. So undocumented workers would not qualify. How do you file a claim? So the EDD is administering all of the claims. So you can go to the edd.ca.gov website, and I've listed it right here on this page. There's a lot of additional information that's available on their website, and they just opened up the application on the 28th, and they've updated the applications and some of the requirements.
So Gloria, just a quick thing there. So we just got a question from one of our people in our chat room. So just to clarify, this is the actual time, this is the actual website to go if you're an independent contractor to file for unemployment. If you have tried to file earlier as that was not for independent contractor, that's for regular W-2 employees. So this right now is the time to apply for the PUA for 1099 contractors.
Correct, yes. And if you've
if you apply for unemployment insurance and you didn't qualify, you have to reapply in order to get the PUA. So make sure you get on there and submit your application again because you did not qualify previously. And if you're unsure, apply anyways. It's one application for both UI and PUA, and the EDD will help classify which one you fit into. Documentations, right now the EDD is swamped with applications, so they've been pretty relaxed with documentation. They want you to self-certify your income, reasons for not being able to work, and some additional stuff. But they may reach out to you for actual documentation. So apply first, and then if they reach out to you, you can start preparing your documents.
So Gloria, when you say you have to meet the annual earnings threshold of 17,368 for independent contractors, that would be our net income, right? Not our gross.
Let me look into that. That's a very good question. I'll look into that and get back to you. So yeah, so self-certify your total income, and then also it should be your total income, but I'll confirm that. And then also why you are not able to work. So COVID related stuff. You can show documentations from doctors, from your workplace, emails would work too, to kind of self-certify.
And if for realtors, it would be based on when the order went in for shelter in place for us, correct?
Well, if you're a contractor for a real estate like company, like a firm, you can receive a letter from your firm, like if you're Century 21 or you will probably receive an email and use that. But I understand some real estate agents are still working during this time, so you probably would need some kind of confirmation saying you're not working.
Okay.
So, yeah. And then emails from schools or childcare providers, if they're closed down and you have to take care of your children and you can't go out and show houses and all that stuff, that's also one of the documentations you can provide. And then the payment phases, they come in 3 phases. Even though the application opened on the 28th, they will backdate it to the 2nd of February. So the first phase is from the 2nd of February. And if you were already unable to work during that time, then you can ask for a retroactive payment. So make sure you indicate that on your application. And you will be receiving $167 per week from the 2nd of February till March 28th. The phase 2 includes an extra $600 from the federal government, which is from March 29th to July 25th. And then phase 3 will go back to the $167 per week, which is July 26th till December 26th. So if you apply like 2 days ago when the application's open, or if you are just applying now, but you haven't been able to work, before this, make sure you put that on your application to receive retroactive payments. Okay, it's not letting me click. Okay. If you are approved, how soon will you get your payment? So if you already have a EDD debit card, you will get it in about 2 days. For many people, that's not the case, and then you'll have to wait from 4 to 7 days to get a new debit card or checks to be issued and mailed to you. And UI benefits are subject to state and federal income taxes, but not medical and social security taxes. Here are some more resources for PUA related stuff. So EDD has a great FAQ. If you have any questions, you can go check the FAQs to see if they're already answered. They have a multilingual call center for different language assistance. And then the Department of Labor actually has a great FAQ as well, in addition to the EDD. And the California Associations of Realtors, of course, is a great resource for your group.
Oh yeah, we've been on it,
yes,
updating it every day.
They have great information on there. So,
yeah,
and they keep updating.
Yes,
and then,
every day.
And there's also 3 numbers on the right side that you can try to call. I know there's a lot of issues with the EDD call lines being swamped. But these are 3 additional numbers to what is out there. So there's more options if you have urgent questions. And of course, you can always email us at Ask Fiona. We do have a liaison at EDD. They are very busy and they've been directing us back to their website, unfortunately. But if there's like a special case that's very unique, I'm sure they will be able to help us with some of the questions.
So Gloria, before you get into the state and local, we have some questions, and maybe Lissa and Coral could pipe in on these questions too in the chat box. So I'm gonna ask the questions and see if anyone can answer these questions. Like one we have was, I applied for and submitted for a PUA a couple of days ago, but what if I need to correct some information? How can I do that?
I think you can go onto the EDD website. They have a chat room that pops up, and then ask them how you can correct that. I'm not sure if you have to resubmit the application. I hope that you don't have to, or else you have to wait again. But check on the EDD website. They have a really helpful chat room right now. It's a new function they added.
Okay, and then we have a question about what is the fine line of not earning any money, even though you're still trying to do business and transactions.
Unfortunately, I don't think the PUA covers that because they still consider that you're still working. If you apply for unemployment insurance, then if you're just working less hours, it should cover it.
Well, real quick, I'm sorry. Can you unmute Coral and Lissa? Because they actually have some additional information to add to you, Gloria.
They should be unmuted, so I think they have to unmute themselves.
Let me see. Let me get out of you. Yeah, I'm not in gallery. Are you guys unmuted? Coral and Lissa?
Now I am. Are you there?
Yes, I hear you.
Hi.
Okay.
As to the gentleman's question, I think he was saying that if I haven't earned any income, but I'm trying to earn income, what I read is that if you have any kind of recent, let's say that you don't have income for 2019, but if you have any recent type of transaction that you've closed, you would definitely want to submit that.
Well, I think his question is, can he apply for a PUA now, even though he's trying to make, trying to earn the income?
Yes.
Yes, I believe so.
Yes, he can. He just, as soon as you make income and you start receiving income, you need to take yourself off of the unemployment insurance.
Do we have any other PUA questions? Okay, if we have escrow and a deal will close soon, does that mean we won't qualify for PUA? I can take that.
Yeah.
Okay, so Yvonne, regarding that, the PUA is retroactive, remember? So you can apply for PUA the first date that you were unable to work. And then the minute that you start earning income, then you need to, they call certify for your benefits. You have to let them know that, okay, from this week to this week, I earned income. And then you have to, be taken off the PUA for that period. So PUA is for when you haven't earned any income. And that goes retroactive back to the date that you stopped working based on COVID-related activities. Mm-hmm. And another question we have is realtors who are still working, but definitely in an area affected by pandemic, can they apply for PUA? I won't take that, but go ahead.
So if you've been impacted, I would say that you should apply. You should apply for the PUA because
remember, PUA is for you have not received any income from the date of the COVID started, that you were affected when you were in shelter in place until you start earning income. And another question was, how long will PUA be available? Is there a time limit to apply? Is it like PPP where it's available until funds are gone?
I'm not sure if there's a limit on the funds, but I would recommend for you to apply as soon as possible. When you are-
This is Catherine Asprey. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. I'm with the state treasurer's office, and I recently got that question, and we're not going to run out of funds. The state obviously does have a budget, and as we know, there's a lot of money coming out of it right now, but the state has the ability to borrow from the federal government if it finds itself in a situation that it needs to. So people should not worry and should not, be scrambling to get their claim in thinking that they're not going to get their money. They will get their money.
Okay. And the other question to that was, how long is it available for? Like, I know that the 600, when does that end, by the way? The $600 a week, that's from the federal for the PUA. When does that end?
July 31st.
July 31st. And that's retroactive?
That's retroactive back to March 29th.
So it's from March 29th to July 31st. It's the extra $600 that you will receive from the federal for the PUA. And then what about the regular unemployment benefit?
The regular unemployment goes through December 26, 2020.
Okay.
So just a quick question. So like in phase one, if you didn't apply back then, so you missed out on that money, correct?
No,
you can
if you were not working, you can get paid retroactively.
Okay, got it.
Let's see.
Okay.
Is that for, okay, another question we have on the PUA still. Is it for any income earned, even though it may have been only $300 or $400 a month? So I guess the question is, with your, let's say you did earn some income during this time, but it was really reduced amount than what you're used to making, can you still qualify for PUA?
I can answer that. Go ahead.
Sorry, I didn't really understand the question.
Okay, so we have someone who's used to making, let's say, $10,000 a month, and then for the last couple of months, they brought in $400 a month. They want to know, can they still qualify for the PUA? Because they earned some type of money, even though it was not enough money to cover their expenses.
I'm not sure about that one.
It's my understanding that it applies to full-time employees, part-time employees. So I don't really believe that the change in hours or the number of hours work matters.
Okay, so Brian, to answer your question, you can still apply.
Okay. So maybe we'll continue, let Gloria continue, and then we could, because I know we still have another PowerPoint by,
Yes.
by our other speakers. So let's, yeah, and then
Let's move on.
And if you have questions that we can't answer right now, just email the askfiona@treasurer.ca.gov email. We'll get back to you.
Okay, so going with Gloria regarding the small business resources, state and local.
Yeah, so Taunee advised us to share some resources on small business resources because a lot of your clients may be small business owners, or you yourself are business owners. So the Treasurer's website has a COVID resource link that actually has different resource lists that we've compiled since the first week of shelter in place. And one of them is the small business resource, and it covers federal, state, local, private, and nonprofit sector resources that are out there, including loans and grants. Other resource lists includes lists about individual reliefs, tax relief, and food access. So I provided the link here. It's the treasurer.ca.gov/COVID-19.asp, and all the lists are on there. One of the programs I want to highlight that are actually from the State Treasurer's Office is called CalCap. It is a program that provides a loan reserve for companies that may find a bit of difficulty in obtaining traditional financing from banks. And with this 100% coverage of loan reserve, some banks are able to provide that kind of loan to the small business. So the loan amount, interest, and terms all depends on the lender and the borrower. But we do have a list of lenders that are participating in this program already. And the website's listed there under /CPCFA/CalCap SBindex.asp. So you can take a look at that. if your lender is not already part of the CalCap program, they can easily apply to be a part of it, and you can connect us with the lender, and we'll work with them on getting them to our approved list. And then there are also a lot of tax relief and extensions available to small businesses at this time to help them through the difficulties. So the California Department of Tax and Fees, which oversees sales and use tax, are allowing people who file less than $1 million a year an additional 3 months to file. So you have until July 31st to file. And businesses that have returns for more than $1 million will have to submit a request for extension.
Gloria, can you explain this really quick about this? This is, okay, all taxpayers file 1 million. Okay, so this is for the, this is for their corporate tax returns?
Sales and use tax. So if you're like a restaurant,
sales and use
small
tax.
restaurant, yeah.
Okay, sales and use tax, got it.
And then small business taxpayers with less than 5 million in taxable annual sales can request a 12-month interest-free payment plan for up to $50,000.
That is nice, because usually there's a 10% penalty. So that's beautiful, plus interest.
Exactly. So these are great reliefs for small business owners, especially in restaurants. The EDD is also providing a 60-day extension upon request. So this is something that you have to file a request for. It's not automatic for state payroll taxes without penalty or interest. And then they have a great work sharing program for employees whose hours and salaries have been reduced. They can receive unemployment benefits while keeping jobs if their hours have been reduced. Franchise Tax Board is postponing filing and payment deadlines for individuals and businesses until July 15th. And the IRS has extended their filing date to July 15th of this year.
Great. Yay, government.
iBank is another great program run by the state. It has $50 million in state funding, and it's for providing companies with 1 to 750 employees that may not qualify for federal funds. So, the companies that are falling through the gap can apply for this funding. Even if you do qualify for federal funds, you can still apply for this, but this program was really meant for the companies that can't get the SBA loans, right?
And you can't, and just to ask you a question, so you can apply for this and also apply for the PP and EIDL and all that, or EIDL.
Yeah.
You can, I'm sorry, Cindy, except for the iBank loans are very pricey.
Okay.
So
yeah,
it's
they're a little higher interest compared to SBA.
And the underwriting requirement is a lot more stricter?
I'm not sure, because they have a list of lenders right now that it depends on the borrower and the lender. They don't directly lend you money from iBank. They work with other institutions. So they have a list available on their website right now. And if you need to participate in the program, I would say go contact one of the lenders that are on their approved list. Okay. Yeah. And they've been very responsive. We've asked them questions for some businesses that are interested, and they're very responsive by email.
Okay.
And then other local nonprofit and private resources that are out there include, you guys are based in Southern California, so Los Angeles City has their own emergency microloan program. I know San Francisco has something similar. Kiva is a nonprofit providing 0% interest loans right now. James Beard Foundation, Salesforce, and Facebook all have grants and some sort of freebies out there, like Facebook. If you have a restaurant, I know they're providing some assistance in terms of advertising funding. So the small business list is very comprehensive in terms of having federal, state, local, and even reliefs. So I really encourage you to go check out the list if you have a small business. And I think we're kind of short. So, thank you. If you have any questions, please, again, send them to askfiona@treasurer.ca.gov. We have a newsletter monthly sent out to our database. If you want to subscribe to it, I provided the link, and also our treasurer's website for your reference. So thank you, everyone.
Well, thank you very much. Is the treasurer still online?
I know the treasurer she's chairing a meeting right now, so she actually stepped away to actually be with us for a while. So, but we can double check with Gloria. Yeah.
Oh, there
Oh,
she is.
she's there.
Actually, I'm back, and
Okay, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule. We really
thank you. And I just want to give a shout out to Catherine and Gloria,
Yes.
and my other team members, another Gloria, Seth, and Noah. They've been really working around the clock whenever we get any sort of new resources. Even private companies are offering different grants and loan programs that they are uploading it right away. And this is the first time that they've done this presentation with a PowerPoint. So I'm proud of my team. So thank you.
Thank you so very much. You know, I know it's so rare to have Fiona on the call with us. So if they have, you know, due to time, if there's any questions, would it be okay that we forward the questions?
Absolutely.
You know, and I think anybody who has a question, you can put it on the chat room and we'll forward it to Fiona's office, and maybe put your email on there, and they'll reply to you by email. That's what I'm thinking. But,
thank you. So people, they're putting up my my email and all the other websites that were mentioned. So hopefully people can see it in the chat room.
Great. Awesome.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay.
So our next speaker is going to be Mr. Daniel, our inside guy from SBA, as I like to say. Can you unmute Daniel, please?
Sure. Daniel, shoot.
We can hear you, Daniel.
Hello, how are everyone?
How are you doing?
Thank you for having me. I'm glad to be here speaking in front of you and being part of your webinar. We're spending a lot of time on the state programs, but the big money is in the federal. Under the SBA disaster loan program, actually, I don't know if many of you went back several years, but in the past, real estate brokers and agents were not included within, they were not qualified within the disaster loan program. This time they are, which is a great thing. A lot of confusion though, because as we all know, real estate brokers, agents are independent per se, but they can definitely apply for the EIDL, which is the economic injury disaster loan, as well as the PPP, which is confusing when you're considering that for payroll, but you're self-employed, you're paying yourself, but definitely are not barred from applying. And even the regs state that a loss of income, not just total no income, then you can still apply. So I was kind of surprised that so many people have not applied. The good point is there's a replenishment of money that, for you to apply. The bad thing is you're behind everyone else who's already applied throughout the U.S. and there is a deluge of people waiting just to hear back from the federal government or their bank in regard to whether they qualify, whether they receive their loan application. A lot of confusion out there. So what I try to do is bridge the gap between SBA, my contacts within SBA, as well as my contacts within the banking community. I am the director of the Minority Business Development Agency in Business Center in Pasadena. So that is under Department of Commerce versus I work with these different people within SBA and this different banking communities. So I try to fill in the gaps where a lot of people don't have access to this kind of information, and it's all very confusing, and even within the government, I'm sure many of you who have applied, is very confusing. Data sites change, the information changes, and where do you go for answers? It's all very difficult. So hopefully I can answer some questions that help people feel more at ease or alarm them that they need to refile or what have you, because in some cases people do refile. They need to refile at For example, PPP, you don't need to apply at your own bank. If your own bank says they cannot do your deal, that doesn't mean that's the end of things. You can go to other banks, and long as they're willing to take your application, with them or to as many banks as actually you can find to do it. However, there are not that many banks right now doing PPP loans just because they're also inundated.
Well, just to mention too, PayPal has started, doing them, and QuickBooks also, if you have a QuickBooks account.
Yeah.
So, Daniel, do you mind if I share your contact information on the chat here?
Sure, sure.
Okay, great.
So Daniel, a question for you. How soon can people, find out if let's talk about the EIDL, for instance. Can you go over the EIDL really quick, what that is?
Sure.
Then I follow up with a question.
So EIDL is the Economic Injury Disaster Loan, which is a business loan which is amortized over 30 years at 3.75%. So you really basically go online and fill in some basic information. Within that, they even give you an option of getting an advance of $10,000, depending on how many employees you have. And then they go ahead and try to underwrite you for a loan. The bad part is, out of the different clients, the people I've been speaking to, very few have even gotten any kind of response back from the underwriters to determine if qualified or not. People have gotten their initial advance, and that goes directly into your bank. But now we're all waiting to see what's required from here. Now,
So who qualifies for the grant, or the 10,000, or the advance, the $10,000 advance?
well, in theory and in the past, you need to prove that you have been financially affected by this pandemic, and for the most part, all of us can. You just need to be able to verbalize that. That being said, we haven't seen any underwriter requests of information or things of that nature to determine what they're really even asking for to prove our case. It's all very fluid, and we're all waiting to see what does come out. That being said, as we do hear things, we do share that information with the state treasurer's office, and they're putting it out to our different contacts and what have you. We're just trying to work through the system to get what information we can out to people, and make sure that they're going the correct path. One important note that SBA's asked me to communicate is the fact that many of you have applied for the EIDL way ahead of time. And if you did not get an application number that begins with a 3, you need to refile, because all those applications were gone when they revamped the website and the system. So one important thing, just go ahead and refile on that one. Also, in going to the SBA website just last night, I went over the different banks who they say are accepting PPP loans. And then when I went to the bank's website, you cannot find anywhere to apply. So that needs to be addressed with SBA as far as who is actually accepting these applications. Now that you heard that PayPal is accepting, I would go there right away and apply, because everyone else who heard this is going to be applying too.
Yes. And just one last question is, with the new round of funding, what is the time frame after someone submits their, what's the time frame of them receiving approval? Let's say they receive an SBA approval number. Do you know what the time frame is when they actually receive the funding?
Now, you're referring the EIDL or the PPP?
The EIDL.
EIDL, it's hard to say because they...
I'm sorry, I apologize. The PPP.
Oh, PPP?
I apologize. Yes.
I would really, we're being told to have you call your bank, because they're the best ones to be able to tell you the time frame. So Apparently, the bank gets the information and waits for SBA to get an approval. Then they'll go ahead and start working on your file. That has been the process. Unfortunately, a lot of banks, they tell you, don't call us, just wait, which is really not very assuring to hear. But then again, you can apply at more than one bank. No one says you can't.
Okay, thank you for that. Are there any questions for Daniel? And I see that in the chat, Cindy had put his information in there too. Because what Daniel does too, just to reiterate, he works with small businesses to help them, you know, get business loans, apply for the EIDL and PPP or whatever issues that you're having. Is what his company, well, what they do at the Minority Business Development Agency, especially if you're going for certification of the, you know, for getting minority certification, women-owned, veteran-owned, et cetera, too, because that can help you get contracts with the government too, by the way.
So, Taunee, so I want to be conscious of our time. I know that we mentioned that we were going to end at 3, but because we have such a great information from the treasurer's office, I want to make sure everybody's okay to kind of maybe continue on for another maybe 15, 20 minutes to max. So that way we could allow our the other speaker, Gloria, and also Lissa, to do their PowerPoint presentation. And if everybody's okay, we're going to allow them to do their presentation.
Right.
And then if you have any questions, let's save it until the very end. So that allows everybody to get to it. If we don't get to your questions, then just send it through the chat and they'll get back to you. Is that okay with everyone? Great.
Yes.
Yes.
All right. So, so I am, okay.
I'm gonna load up. So we have, while she's loading up Coral Hansen's and Lissa Weissman's presentation, just want to reintroduce them again. They're from GlassRatner, which is a national specialty financial advisory services firm, which provides solutions to complex business problems and board level agenda items. And I'd like to brag about Coral again. She did make LA Business Journal's 2019 list of most influential women accountants. Yay. And their presentation is up and ready to go. So I will turn it over to the ladies.
Okay.
Oh, Rod, I'm sorry, Rod, can you mute? I hear some background sound from some people. Can you mute everyone but the speakers, please?
Okay, I'll do that.
But good afternoon, everyone. My name is Coral Hansen, as Taunee introduced me, and I'm also presenting with, it's Coral like the reef, and with Lissa Weissman, it's Lissa like Melissa without the M-E. That's going to be our tagline from now on. Anyway, we're very honored to be here speaking to the Asian Real Estate Association and speaking alongside the other fabulous panelists. I'm not sure how to...
You are already, you just have to, you have access to remote, and so you can control it as you go. You now have control over my computer, so you guys can both you and Lisa can actually control it. So for everybody who's on the seminar with us, we talked about step by step, so they're gonna really go through the dig deep. We had a good overall view from the treasurer's office. Now you're gonna dig deep into what we could do as realtors.
For the PPP and EIDL program, yes.
Yes, we'll touch very briefly on the PUA since it was already covered. But I can't, when I click on the slide, it doesn't do anything. I
believe you have to accept it, so you should be able to see it. But anyway, I can move it for you if you like.
It didn't ask me to accept, so you can go to the first slide.
Okay.
The first slide is just a big fat disclaimer because, as everyone knows, it's changing hour by hour. So, you know, Lissa and I have been spending the better half of the last 2 weeks researching and reading things on a daily basis. So understand that the things within our presentation could change, and what we have in the presentation is based upon our best interpretation. Next slide. All right, so we're going to start with the Paycheck Protection Plan. I know that some of it has gone over. Oh, I think I can do it now. Hold on. This is very exciting. Click. Oh, hold on.
On the very
Go, just hit to number 2. Hit number 3.
Oh, so Carl, stop. Okay, wait one moment. Allow me to do my mouse thing. There you go. Okay, now you can have it back.
I need to go back though, and I still don't seem to know how. So next slide. Let's just do it that way. It's easier.
Okay, you can just use the arrow key on your screen, just so you know, on your computer.
It's not working.
There you go.
Okay, go back one slide, please. All right, so obviously this was designed to help small businesses keep their workforce employed. So the loan proceeds can be used to.
You gotta, yeah, there you go.
Sure.
Right there.
Gotcha. Actually, I can just look at I've got it on my other screen too, so I can do it that way. But anyway, you could, for payroll, that is salary, wages, vacation, parental, family, medical or sick leave, and health benefits. And also mortgage interest, as long as the mortgage was signed before February 15th. It's a little vague on what constitutes mortgage interest, but the one example that I saw was that a current example would be mortgage interest on a warehouse you use to store equipment, and or an auto loan interest on a car you use to make business deliveries, which I thought was interesting. Rent and utilities, as long as they were leased and signed as, you know, and in place before February 15th. And the amount can be forgiven up to 100% if certain requirements are met, and we'll discuss that in a later slide. Next slide. There we go. So you can obtain up to $10 million at an interest rate of 1% over 2 years. And the first payment is deferred for 6 months. The amount will be determined by your payroll, including benefits, and the payroll cost. And we're going to go through the calculation quickly so that it's a little bit easier to understand. I'm kind of a visual person versus a narrative person. But the payroll costs are capped at $100,000 per employee, and the calculation is 2.5 times your average monthly payroll over the last 12-month period.
And I just want to insert that that's W-2 employees, by the way, not 1099 contractors, but W-2 employees.
Correct. And there's a distinction. I mean, you may hear the factor 2.5 versus 8 weeks. And 2.5 is meant to be 2 months or 8 weeks of payroll. And the other 0.5 is meant to cover mortgage and utilities and rent if you have those kinds of costs. Some independent contractors don't. And so we'll cover that. It covers most businesses with less than 500 employees, includes sole proprietors, independent contractors, and the self-employed, and there's no collateral required and no personal guarantees necessary. So that's important. Next slide. Next slide. Okay, so this question came up when we added it. Should you use your 2019 payroll costs as you've typically been reading, or the payroll costs for the 12 months prior to the application, known as the trailing 12 months? Really, you want to use the one that's going to be most representative of what is going forward. So you should calculate both scenarios and determine which one best reflects what you think is going to happen going forward. So for example, if in 2019 your business was running at $100,000 a year in payroll for whatever reason, but just because your business is changing, not related to COVID, you think that it's going to be less than, and you started cutting back in the first quarter of 2020, we would say use the last trailing 12 months. And if you are a sole proprietor or an independent contractor, you should use the income from your 2019 Form 1040 Schedule C, line 31. But if you need to provide, additional information about the payroll, you can.
And and just to translate that, that's your net income. That's on your,
that is your net income. And if you think about it, I mean, employees, they get a paycheck for, $50,000 a year. But if you're an independent contractor, you have your $50,000 salary, but you've got a bunch of expenses as well. So really you're only making the net of that, and that's what they're going to base your loan on.
Yes.
Next slide. What about forgiveness? And this, I think, is probably the most important part of the presentation. Up to 100% after the 8-week period following the origination of the loan, you need to spend that money. If the proceeds are not spent during that 8-week period, whatever's not spent will not be forgiven. And if it's not forgiven, it will likely be taxable. It can also be converted to a two-year loan at 1%.
Well, I'm sorry, Coral, go back to that. If it's not forgiven, Why would it be taxable since it's going to be turned into a loan?
It's still going to be considered taxable income. You'll still have the loan write-offs on your tax return, but it's still considered taxable income.
Oh, that's interesting. Okay, even though it's a loan, they're going to tax us on that? Meaning taxable is going to be taxable for federal and state taxes on the PPP? I'm talking about not being forgiven. I'm talking about the part that say the 100% of it is not forgiven. Okay, and so we have to pay it back as a loan. Are you saying that's going to be taxable for federal or state?
Well, let me get back to you on that. I was speaking to a CPA who just specializes in taxes, and I asked him the same question. This was earlier this morning, and he said that he believes that the unforgiven amount will be taxable. And I said, what about the fact that it's a loan? So I'll need to get some clarification on that.
I think what he's meaning, I'm sorry, but what he's meaning is that the forgiven part would be taxable. Because
is that not what I said?
Oh, no, you said
No.
unforgiven. You said unforgiven.
Okay. My apologies.
Yeah.
At least 75% of the loan needs to be spent on payroll, and the remainder of the loan must be spent on things such as rent, utilities, expenses, etc. And you don't want to spend more than the 8 weeks on payroll, but it needs to be at least 75%. So that's kind of what you target, and we'll go through a calculation. If your full-time equivalent count drops, your full-time equivalent employee, you could get penalized for that as well from a forgiveness perspective. And the CARE Act considers somebody who works 30 hours a week as a full-time equivalent employee. So if you have employees that work less than that, you would simply take their hours and divide it by 120 hours to come up with the partial employee as an FTE, the 120 being 30 hours a week times 4 weeks. And we're going to go through an example. The average full-time equivalent employees during the period covered that you're comparing it to would be the period from January 1st through February 29th, 2020. And if the above requirements amount, and the rest will be converted to a 2-year loan. And I'm going to walk through this in an example, which I think makes it easier. Next slide.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is a loan calculation worksheet this is the maximum amount of loan and how you calculate it for employers. So you look at your payroll costs, which we said include salary, wages, commissions, vacation pay, etc., not to exceed $100,000 per employee, and you take a monthly average. So in this example, it's 2.1 million for the last 12 months. Use an average 175,000, that's divided by 12. You're going to gather the same information for the last 12 months on group health insurance, retirement benefits, and state and local taxes on employee compensation, such as unemployment tax that the employer pays. You're going to add all of that up, and you're going to multiply it by 2.5, and that will determine your maximum loan amount. So in this case, your maximum loan amount would be $465,000 rounding. And your maximum loan would be the lesser of that amount, or $10 million. Next slide. This is a forgiveness of that same loan. So the loan that you received was around $465,000.
Right there. Yeah.
And so you calculate the payroll cost that you actually spent, which in this case was $400,000, rent, utilities, interest on covered mortgages, and the total amount that we spent it all. We spent all $465,000 of the loan. Then we've got to do a couple of calculations to determine whether or not all of that or some of that is going to be forgiven. So as I mentioned before, you're going to look at your full-time equivalents from the period from January 1st through February 29th and see what that was. And in this example, let's say it's 38. And you also have a choice of looking at your equivalent from the period February 15th to June 30th, 2019. I think that's to pick up seasonal employers. But regardless, you're going to look at that prior period, pick the lower number. So let's say you had 38 employees at the beginning of 2020. And then at the end of the 8 weeks after the origination of the loan, you only have 32 employees. So you're down 6 employees. So your percentage that won't be forgiven would be that pro rata percentage. So 6 divided by 32, which is 15.79%. You'd multiply that by your total loan of $465,000, and that's the amount that you will not get forgiven, $73,000. In addition to the full-time equivalent count, there's also a dollar comparison. So individual employee compensation reduction, if it's 25% less than when it was compared to the first quarter, then you're going to get a dollar reduction on that. So it's the head count and dollar amount, because what they're trying, what the purpose is, they want you to get those employees back working in the workforce. And then the last one is—
I'm sorry, just before you move on,
Sure.
I don't understand the 30,000, the 25%. Where is that calculation coming from again?
The 30,000 is, I believe it's, what's the math on that, Lissa? Is it 25% of the 400,000?
I believe that's correct.
So it's basically individual employee compensation reduction compared to the most recent quarter. So if our total payroll, you're saying at the end of this 8 weeks, or our total payroll is less than the previous quarter, then we get hit another 25%?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Exactly.
So we're comparing the previous quarter though, the actual previous quarter.
Correct. So
Okay.
in both, they're basically saying, okay, prior to when you started receiving the monies, which may be in February, late February, or what have you, they want to look at the time prior, generally the first quarter, of what your count was and your total dollar amount for compensation. And if your count is off, they're going to take a pro rata percentage reduction of the total loan. And if the dollar amount is off, they're going to take a percentage of that as well. So it's
another 25%.
Another 25%. Yeah, it's a two-prong comparison.
Okay.
And then last, as I mentioned in the slide, you have to spend at least 75% of your loan on payroll. If you spend more of it on, mortgage or rent or utilities, you're going to get penalized. So in this example, we spent a total of $400,000 on payroll, and the loan that we spent was $465,000. So that percentage is about 85.9%. So we're okay. We spent well over the 75% on payroll. We're not going to receive any penalty. So the total loan forgiveness will be the $362,000, and the amount that's not forgiven will be $103,000.
So on the 362 that's forgiven, that's what's going to be taxable to federal and state, because it's considered I wouldn't say bad debt, a council debt, correct?
I'm not sure about that. Lissa, is that taxable?
I believe that's correct.
Yeah, you receive a 1099.
The forgiven portion.
Right, you receive a 1099-C.
Okay, thank you. I think I got tripped up on my morning conversation. Okay, it's next slide. And this one's probably more relevant to the audience. This is the calculation for both the maximum amount of the loan that you can get as an independent contractor and sole proprietor, and how the forgiveness works on that. And it's a little bit more simple, as you can see. So you're going to take your net profit, so your 1099s less your expenses, which is typically reported on your Schedule C, which would be line 31 on the first page of your Form 1040. And you're going to take that amount, but you need to reduce it for $100,000 per. You need to reduce it by it's capped at 100,000 is what I'm trying to say. So in this case, we would reduce that to 100,000. Then you're going to divide it by 12 months to come up with a monthly average net profit. And you're going to multiply it by that 2.5% factor, and that will be your maximum loan amount. Now, if a typical realtor and you're not going to have other things that you can spend it on, like mortgage, interest, rent, and utilities, to make sure that you don't take too much and everything that you take gets forgiven, you would want to use the following calculation. You would take your net profit again from your Schedule C line 31, reduce it by reduce it to $100,000, and you're going to then divide it by 52 weeks. And this will give you your average weekly net profit. and then you're going to multiply it by 8 weeks, and that would be your maximum forgiveness amount. So if you know you're not going to spend on those other types of things, this is the amount of loan that you should take out, the $15,000 versus the $20,000. Does that make sense, or any questions there?
If you take out, excuse me, the larger loan of the 20,000, just be aware that the worst thing that will happen if you don't spend it is that the balance of the $5,000 will be converted to a 2-year loan at 1% interest that is deferred for 6 months. So you'll basically have 18 months to pay it back, but those payments are fairly low. So as long as you're okay with that, and in general, you should look at it as if you're not going to have any forgiveness, just in case.
Or, I mean, there's 2 rules of thumb. You can't apply twice. So there's 2 rules of thumb. Apply and get the entire amount of $20,833 and don't spend the other $5,000. Set it aside and be ready to pay it back. And if you pay it back, there's not going to be, you know, if you pay it back, it won't be converted to a loan, or the loan will be at a really low amount, 1%. Or if you don't think you can be that structured, just take out the amount that simply relates to 8 weeks of payroll, which would be the $15,000.
That's perfect.
Now, if you have, somebody asked me a question about, you know, what about mortgage interest if you have a home office? If you worked in an office space, say in 2019, and you didn't have a home office, you could not have claimed a deduction on your home mortgage interest on your tax return because you didn't have a home office. I mean, you can have a home office, but if you have a regular office, you still can't consider your home office for a deduction on your tax return. Even if you're currently working from home now, you are not eligible to claim home mortgage interest payments for forgiveness. If you weren't able to claim that on your 2019 tax return, you won't be able to claim it now.
Okay.
Next slide. Proof of income, the lender's going to want to see, you know, gather all your documents, wage, commissions, income, your Schedule C, earnings report, pay stubs, or any invoices that you have. If you have not completed your 2019 tax return because it's not due until July 15th, right, you need to go ahead and fill out the Schedule C and provide that without filling out the rest of your tax return. Independent contractors are going to need to submit their 1099s from 2019 as well. And all self-employed individuals will need to submit 2019 payroll tax filings reported to the IRS. And one thing I want to mention here too, when I was reading about it, one of the relief that's available to you is you can get a tax credit for your payroll. And I think it is, let's see, it's called called an employee retention credit. And it's it's a maximum of $5,000 per employee. And the credits are worth 50% of qualifying wages. If you take that employee retention credit on your payroll tax return, you can't also take the PPP funds.
Right.
So you would need to do calculations for both to see which would be most beneficial for you. Next slide. I go back one slide. I think we pretty much, let's see, I think that's pretty much covered. So this is the most important part, a takeaway. Get a payroll service. You know, if you've been doing it on your own, which I think is crazy because, I mean, I'm a CPA and I can't do payroll taxes very well. They're very complicated. And if you mess up, the IRS will be your nightmare for the rest of your life, or the taxing authority. Toss the shoebox. Actually get accounting software.
Yes.
Tracking this is going to be extremely important to ensure that you are eligible for the most amount of forgiveness that you can receive. You're going to want to keep your PPP funds separate. So we would suggest opening up a separate bank account. And back to get an accounting software. If you use something like QuickBooks, you can actually track by a function called class the
Mm-hmm.
expenditures that you are spending on for the PPP versus things you're spending on other things. And it'll track that for you, which is kind of nice. Be obsessive about tracking everything. And part of the reason I say that is, you know, when the IRS and these organizations start doing audits, which they will do, if you've made a mistake, that's not going to be considered fraud. So if you've asked for a certain loan amount and you've documented exactly why you asked for that and it was good faith, there may be some repercussion as far as, you know, something not being forgiven or what have you, but at least you're not going to be accused of committing fraud. I mean, that's the same thing when you do a tax return. If you're going to take a strong position on a deduction, if you have it well documented, at least they don't think that you're, you know, lying. If you're self-employed, make sure you're paying yourself a salary. And, you know, I don't know, you know, if you haven't had a CPA in the past, this is really, really the time to get one, because there are too many tax implications to even cover in a 1-hour presentation. And I think the CPAs are still getting up to speed on what those will be. So, I mean, if you're somebody like me, I mean, I've done my own taxes with TurboTax forever. You know, if I were, you know, taking one of these loans out, I would probably outsource it to somebody that does taxes as a full-time job.
One more thing that would help out is when you receive your Paycheck Protection funds, open a separate bank account. Do not commingle it with your other funds, so you have a very clear line of what you spend exactly that money on.
I agree. Next slide. Okay, Lissa's going to take it from here.
Okay, so this goes on, you know, I am technologically inept, so I can't figure out how to see which slide Cindy's on. So I'm going off of my slides.
She's on the Paycheck Protection Plan, PPP, and Pandemic Unemployment Insurance, PUA.
Okay.
Slide 15.
Got it. The question has come up, can I apply for both the PPP and the PUA? And the answer is yes. You can file for them both simultaneously. File for the PUA retroactive to the date that your business was affected or your income was affected. When you upon receipt of the PPP funds, you need to stop your unemployment insurance. You need to cancel it. If you are using both, you are double dipping, and that is illegal. When you are done with your 8-week period for the funds for the PPP, you may then reapply for pandemic unemployment insurance.
And
so there's,
go ahead.
No, there's a way you can do both.
Right.
And just one little tax issue here. For the PUA, that income will be taxed federally, but you will not be taxed for it in California.
Oh, right. Yes. Yes.
Next slide.
Next slide. So now we're moving on to the economic injury disaster loan. This loan can be used for your fixed expenses, your accounts payable, general operating expenses. It can be used on payroll. If you have both the Paycheck Protection Program and the EIDL, you cannot use the money for the same thing. So you can use the Paycheck Protection for your payroll and your mortgage and things like that, but you can use your EIDL for your fixed expenses, your general operating expenses, accounts payable, and things like that. You just need to make sure that you're not using them for the same thing.
Like for instance, with the PPP, you're not able to use it for payroll taxes or for any other payroll related items like mileage reimbursements and stuff like that. You can use your EIDL for that.
For those things, that's correct. Bianca just asked, what is the PUA? Again, it's Pandemic Unemployment Insurance. It is the unemployment insurance that is designed for contractors and sole proprietors.
It's for people that ordinarily would not have received unemployment insurance previously, because as a sole proprietor or independent contractor, you didn't pay unemployment taxes, and so generally you wouldn't receive unemployment insurance.
The loan is up to $2 million. Interest rate is 3.75% APR. The loan goes up to 30 years. And it can be deferred for up to 12 months if you ask and the SBA determines that you are entitled to do that. Basically, it's businesses that have been affected by COVID-19, up to 500 employees. It's funny because I wrote this in there and it says it must be located in a declared disaster area. I'm pretty sure all of the United States has been declared a disaster area pretty much at this point. And it is also for sole proprietors, independent contractors, and landlords are able to receive the EIDL. Next slide, please.
Yeah, so for realtors with clients who are landlords, you probably want to encourage them to go for it.
They now have added on the application under cost of goods sold, there's a line that says lost rents.
Oh, that's good.
Okay, so on the next slide, the EIDL advance. The EIDL advance, excuse me,
Cindy, it's a previous slide. Right, yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry, okay, I can't see. The advance is when you get to towards the end of the EIDL application, there will be a box that says, do you want this advance? Check the box. You will need to put in your bank account information. They also, if you are filing as a sole proprietor, count yourself as an employee. If the money is being dispersed is $1,000 per employee up to 10 employees. This is $10,000 cap. If chances, originally you're supposed to receive that advance within 3 days of applying. Nothing's really working on the time mechanism that was originally set up. So it's very variable times. The next slide, please.
I want to answer real quick. Bianca asked, how do they know how much they will lend you at the EIDL? I'm doing research as these questions are coming up and you're talking, Lissa.
It's going to be based on your income less and your cost of goods sold, and basically more on the cost of goods sold, which is what you need, or the rents lost, what you need to keep your business in operation.
So, and Lissa, let's talk about what is cost of goods sold.
If you were running a factory, cost of goods sold would be the labor and the parts that will go into assembling the final product.
So for realtors, then the cost of goods sold for us is our expenses related to selling real estate, correct?
Coral, can you chime in on that?
Generally it's considered what is a variable cost versus a fixed cost. So if you are selling, 10 houses one month and 20 houses the next month, I presume your advertising expenses are going to increase proportionately with the additional houses that you're selling. Those kinds of direct related expenses to your sales are cost of goods sold. It's the cost of making the sale.
And in this case here, we're also going to include the 1099 direct costs in this number, right?
Well, in the income part.
Right. So, for us realtors, then the cost of goods sold for us will be what we pay transaction coordinators, what we pay other realtors, referral fees, things like that.
That's correct. And I don't know what kind of flat fee things that you have in your business.
Right.
So it may be that all of your expenses are cost of goods sold.
Right. It would be dues be paid to the boards, everything like that would be considered. It's direct expenses related to your real estate is what's considered cost of goods sold.
I mean, if you had to pay a license fee every year and it was the
Yes.
same amount regardless of how many houses you sold, that would be a fixed cost and that would not be part of your cost of goods sold.
Thank you. So mine board dues
Yeah.
and MLS.
I want to make
Yep.
sure I'm on the right slide. Are we on the right slide?
You're on slide 18.
Yes.
Well, that's where I am. Okay. Other information pertaining to the EIDL. This loan requires collateral and a personal guarantee. For loans of $25,000 or less, no personal guarantee. I mean, that's not true. The personal guarantee, there's no collateral required. Personal credit history, your ability to repay the loan, all of those things will be taken into consideration. This is more like a traditional loan. It just has a lower interest rate right now, and was set up to be faster to get. The only place to apply for this is through the SBA website. This goes back to what Fiona was saying earlier. There are a lot of scams out there. Be careful. Next slide, please.
I want to add one. You can change the slide. That's fine. But I just want to add one thing about the maximum loan and how it's basically the maximum amount that the SBA will give you, how they determine that. It's based upon the actual economic injury as determined by the SBA. So that would be you proving what your economic injury is. Less any recovery.
What do you mean by economic injury? That means loss of income compared to.
I think that means your projected loss of income.
Okay.
And that's something that you would have to calculate. It's something that's kind of one of the things you probably want to work with a CPA or a financial advisor that could help you do a projection, because the better those things look in, or the form and format that an SBA agent is used to seeing, the more, plausible it'll be. And then you would take that and less any recovery such as insurance proceeds.
When you get when you get through the queue, and I have a real estate client that I've applied for, a retail shopping center, we've been in the queue forever. But when you get through the queue, they assign you to a loan officer. And if you, as Cora was saying, if you have all these things together, these are things you go through with the loan officer. They're also going to ask you for a lot of information that I believe
they're basically going to
I
try
have listed on the next page.
they're basically going to try to determine how much money you need to make you whole.
And your ability to repay that.
And also note, by the way, the 25,000 is the max without any personal guarantee or collateral. So if you go over that, be prepared for personal guarantee and also your real estate. If you own any real estate, that might be, ask for collateral.
I may have misspoke. I do believe the personal guarantee is required no matter the amount, but there's no collateral required for under 25,000.
No, it's, hold on, I'm looking right now.
Yeah, because I thought it was no personal guarantee under 25,000.
It says the personal guarantee requirement is waived for loans of 200,000 or less.
I stand corrected.
Traditional collateral requirements under the EIDL generally required for loans of more than 25,000 appear to still apply.
So we'll have to do,
collateral, just what you said, collateral of more than 25,000, no personal guarantee if the loan's under 200,000.
But prepare to put collateral up after 25.
That's it. And
to me, that's personal guarantee.
Generally, they like your real estate. And generally, they want your real estate. So.
Exactly.
Again, the only place to apply is at www.sba.gov. It will give you a link to click on the COVID-19 disaster loans, and you can go from there. Application information is what Cora was talking about. In order to prove your losses, you need your gross revenue for the 12-month period ending January 31st, 2020. I do not believe that date has changed with the second round of funding. You need the cost of goods sold for the same period, lost rents. You have to have a physical business address, no PO boxes, and the individual owner's information. You'll need your social security number, federal ID number. Originally it was taking up to 4 weeks to approve. It's been taking a lot longer.
Yes.
And remember, to get that advance, the $10,000, you need to check that box.
And that's only if you have 10 employees, by the way, 10 W-2 employees. So it's 1,000 per W-2 employee.
If you are if you're a sole proprietor, independent contractor, you can put down 1 employee being yourself.
Perfect.
And then you will get the $1,000. Next slide, please. When you are assigned a loan officer, this is the list of documents you should be prepared to give. You need your business financial statements, including P&L and balance sheet. You need your personal and business tax returns, your personal financial statements, a schedule of liabilities, deed or lease information, and insurance information.
Last slide.
Last slide, yes, that's okay. Again, like the PPP, keep great records. If you, let's say, apply and get $100,000 right now, and you are down to your last 20,000 and you realize you're not going to make it through this with that, you can, through your approved loan, request additional funds. You will need to prove what you've been spending the funds on to request this. It's not a forgiveness, but if you want to make sure that you have adequate funds and that you can get more if you need it. If you've applied, and we went over this earlier, but if you previously applied and your confirmation number starts with a 2, you need to reapply. If it starts with a 3, you are in the queue. So you do not need to reapply. But to check status on your application, we have 2 email addresses.
Can you move to the next slide, please? Slide 21. Thank you. Perfect.
Those 2 email addresses, which is corywilliams@sba.gov and disaster customer service @sba.gov. And they have put together a disaster customer service phone number. The number is 800-659-2955.
Next slide.
Next slide.
That's it.
Yeah, if you would like to reach either of us, that is our contact information.
Yeah, and I know this is very confusing, and we're still learning and things are still changing, but if you have any questions, please email us. We'd be happy to look into it, because I presume we'll continue to do these presentations, and the more questions that you give us, the better we can tweak our presentation and make it more understandable. And thank you so much for having us, and we appreciate it.
And thank you so much for staying the distance so we could put our presentation on.
And I also just want to add about other services that Coral and Lissa is offering too. For your clients and maybe for yourself too, they actually have another service they started where they're helping people get claims filed with their insurance company for business interruption. So for instance, like a couple of my clients I'm referring over to them, one has a retail store in West Hollywood. So of course, they were closed down. And a lot of insurance companies, commercial insurance companies are saying, no, even though it's a civil authority that shut you down, we're not going to pay out. And so what Coral and Lissa's are doing, they actually have a task force that started at their company, and they're helping clients file for business interruption insurance. So you can definitely, if you're for yourself or for your clients who have storefronts, you may want to reach out to them for that.
We also, if you have developers or any real estate owners, landlords who are in trouble, we work with a lot of real estate companies to help try and get them out of trouble or help them through the process of bankruptcy if necessary.
Great.
Thank
So,
you.
okay, so, you know, I think since we've extended our time, I mean, it's such a hot topic that I think, you know, there's so much information to be shared from the Honorable Ma's office. And I know with our fellow speakers, there's so much information to share. And so, and I think everybody, we still have about 33 participants on the call with us. I definitely have to say you guys are such a sport, and I'm glad you're taking the time out to you know, get all the information that you want. You know, at this point, I don't know if you know, if you want to open up and just answer one or two questions from everybody else, but this call is recorded. I already shared the PowerPoint presentation from the Treasurer's Office, which is posted on the chat. And we also will be posting their presentation here also on the Facebook AREAA North LA, AREAA North LA website as well. So Taunee, did you want to take a couple questions? That we are, you know, I'm just thinking like, okay, it's going to be a 2-hour thing since it's about money and everybody is really needing the money. And I think, you know, we have a pretty detailed information. So I think for the most part, everybody, yeah, if anybody want to type your questions on Q&A, then I don't know if there's anything you saw that specifically you want to address, but.
I'd like to address one. RC mentioned that they have been on the SBA website and it's not taking applications at this time. I was remiss in not mentioning this. They're having a hard time getting the website back up and running. Yeah. And they're still going through the backlog of they had it up for about a nanosecond and it kept crashing. So I would say check the SBA website on a regular basis.
Great.
It will be back up and running. We just don't know when.
Okay, great.
And also compliment to our speakers, by the way. Brian says that he's been on a number of these sessions, and this was the best nuts and bolts of the real estate world. Thank you all.
Thank you, thank you. And if we could just maybe ask for, you know, well, we'll answer. So Jay asked, as a realtor, can we apply for EIDL? Most realtors are 1099.
Yes, you can.
Okay, great. So maybe we'll just allow each of the speakers to kind of give their closing comment. I know Gloria from the State Treasurer's Office had to leave us earlier. I don't know if Catherine's still with us, but Catherine, are you still here, maybe?
Computer.
Yeah, she is. Okay. So if we, at this point, maybe allow Catherine and also Daniel, Cora, and Lisa, and everybody to give your last closing comment. And thank you everyone for bearing with us for the extended conversation.
Quick question, can Coral and Lissa, can you guys type in your contact information in the chat box, please?
Yes, we can.
Okay. So maybe we'll ask Catherine to go first. Catherine, do you have any closing comment from the State Treasurer's Office?
You have to unmute her.
Okay. She is unmuted. Okay, maybe we'll go back to her. And okay, so how about Daniel? Thank you for still staying with us.
Daniel.
Oh my God.
Daniel?
I don't see Daniel. Hold on.
Okay. Well, I see him here actually.
Okay.
So why don't we go to Coral for now?
Well, I just wanted to say thank you very much. And, you know, even though the research that Lissa and I have been doing is not directly related to our business, we're just really happy to help. You know, one thing about this whole pandemic is how it's brought us all closer and, you know, really removed any barriers. We're all in the same boat. And we are very, very happy to help you in any way that we can. And we're still learning and studying this as well. So really feel free to reach out to us and we'll help you as best we can. And, you know, if any of you or business owners have a business interruption policy. I'm sure your commercial broker is going to tell you, he's going to give you a big flat no, you're not covered. But I'm pretty much attending business interruption webinars and Zoom calls every day with different attorneys around the country, trying to get their take on the situation. And it's an evolving situation. There are going to be, there are certain, I'd be happy to take a look at your policy. I'm not an attorney, but I could give you some general advice, and I could probably refer you to somebody, an attorney that specializes in that area, so you can see if you qualify. But regardless, because we don't know what's going to happen with the business interruption insurance, go ahead and get your information together and file a claim. And that's something that we can also help you with. So reach out and we can provide you some guidance on that.
Great. Lisa, did you want to say anything?
No, just thank you all for attending. Thank you for hanging in there with us for all this time. And please reach out to us if you have any questions.
Taunee, thank you very much for sharing your time with us, especially you should be on the other call as well. So thank you for splitting yourself.
Thank you. This was an honor to work with ARIA. You guys are a great organization. I mean, 17,000 members nationwide. So it's just awesome to be part of this. So I thank you very much for having me here.
Thank you very much. And
thank you. Thank you so much, everyone.
Yeah, so on behalf of the chapter, on behalf of President Cheryl and also the rest of the board of directors, I just like to thank all the participants. And remember, we are doing a 6-week seminar for COVID-19. So next week, next Thursday from 2 p.m. to 3 p.m., same time, 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, same place, the same login you had today, the same ID, the same password that you're able to log in. And we're going to be covering lead generation during COVID-19 for realtors. So again, with that, thank you everyone who stayed on. Thank you so much for all our panelists and for being a part of it. And we love to have you come back and be one of our events in the future or sponsors. So thank you very much. Let's go give them a great round of applause.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.